Welcome everybody to another Salty Chillers Entertainment podcast. This is Hero Darkness.
Salt Logic.
Which numbers?
Valentine.
And today we'll be discussing band theories in movies. But before we go right into that, we want to do an apology for the lack of videos this past week. There were some technical issues that came up on our end, and then one of our co-workers, friend, Red Renegade, he had some issues that came up in his personal life, and so he has to get that taken care of, and he'll be back with us as soon as he can. So that's what's going on.
Again, we apologize for that.
And we'll do a better job on whether it's our Twitter page or making a short little video on explaining what's going on if for some reason we're not being up to date with all our video content that we're releasing that we normally do. And so without further ado, let's start off with Salt Logic here and the fan theory that he has done research on and has found.
Alright, today I'm going to be talking about Toy Story and how the events with Toy Story 1 to be exact, is how the events with Woody and Buzz being trapped by Sid, how that little situation had changed Sid's life. Well, in the first movie, at one point Woody and Buzz find themselves trapped in the home of Sid, which he is a malevolent child, which the audience is told he tortures toys. When Buzz is in danger, Woody stages a daring rescue, which involves scarring Sid and revealing that his toys are always watching him. Which, if you think about that, is a little bit creepy, to always have something watching you when you don't know it.
Big
Talk about
Brother's
taking-
watching.
Take paranoia to the highest level of degree on that note. Of course,
Right.
when the events are viewed from another perspective, Sid doesn't seem particularly evil. Instead, he just has a creative way of playing with his toys, which I don't know what kind of creativity involves launching them into space with a rocket, or
That's a
things of
firework,
that
Emily.
nature. That's yeah, you're probably right. I think it's like a firework rocket. I don't know.
Big one. Keep out of each other's
yeah.
children.
Something
Either
of that sort.
way,
That's why
he
for some reason I
has
thought
a
it was
rocket and he's gonna launch it.
How is that not safe? Wait, how is that
And
not?
it's the thing about it's interesting way to play with toys.
Well, while the child is hardly well behaved, he's unaware of exactly how much he's hurting his toys. Well, with the next time you see Sid, or the audience sees Sid, it is in Toy Story 3. And he appears as a garbage man, which which led many fans to speculate that after being confronted by Woody, Sid had changed his life goals into taking a job as a garbage man to save toys from the furnace, which Woody and his friends ended up being stuck at in the movie. Well, Sid could have been the toy's greatest ally if it hadn't been for that emotional scar that had taken effect in the first movie during that rescue to save Buzz.
That is a very interesting fan theory. And so what makes people believe that it's Sid in Toy Story 3 with being the trash man? How are they connecting the dots?
Oh, how I would connect the dots on that one would be, well, when you look at the shirt of the person that's picking up the trash, it is a black shirt with what looked like a skull. If I remember correctly, it's been entirely too long. And I believe you can kind of hear like what sounds like distant music in the background, which also kind of sounds a little bit heavy, which makes me kind of correlate back to, hey, this is probably Sid. That's how I see it. I don't know if that's necessarily how everyone else sees it, but that's how I perceive linking that between Sid from the first movie and for what could be Sid in the third one. And again, everyone's opinions are different on that. That's just how I think.
That is a plausibility indeed.
But other than that, that's about all I have for that little theory.
Alright, I guess that means it's my turn. The thing I brought to the table and thought about was actually goes back to the Lord of the Rings. Not The Hobbit, but Lord of the Rings. It goes back to also the Mines of Moria. I remember when I was a kid on watching Lord of the Rings, I didn't care much for the most of the first half of the Fellowship Ring. Yes, good stuff still happened, but I like the Mines of Moria. What happened there then after that, because that's when the movie picked up. But something when I was a kid that also bothered me was when Gandalf, after fighting the Balrog of Moria, he said, "Flies, you fools." I wonder why does it say fly, not run? That was bothering me as a kid. I asked my dad, I was like, it means to say run so they can run away. But then doing some research when I got older, it made me think that would be the reason why he said fly was he wanted them to go to the eagles and catch silent from the eagles and destroy the ring that way.
Yeah, I'm familiar with this fan theory as well. So, to help understand, the eagles played a important role in The Hobbit. There's a part where Gandalf, Bilbo, and the 13 dwarves are pretty much cornered by the wolves and the orcs, goblins, and they're literally in trees and they can't do anything, and Gandalf's just launching fireworks. And the eagles come and get them out of that mess and saves the day for that time being and sets them off by Mirkwood. And so Gandalf is well aware of these eagles, and we all know the fastest way to travel is in a straight line, and birds can fly in a straight line. So the theory also states the reason why Gandalf wants to use the eagles is it's the fastest way there, and it works perfect in getting everything there, and you can fly over Mordor without having to fight through the going through the Black Gate and fighting everything there inside of Mordor, which was essentially what the Fellowship was going to do, was stealth their way, or the eagles were going to get them close enough to Mordor where they can stealth their way through. Which was one reason why Gandalf was hesitant on going through Moria, because Moria was a detour. He wanted to go over the mountain pass, which was the fastest way there. But Saruman,
Saruman said no.
which then led to the untimely demise of Gandalf. So yeah,
Alright.
that's the theory behind why Gandalf says "fly, you fools" versus "run, you fools."
Yeah.
As people are speculating.
Because that was brought in 3 books down to like a book and a half.
Yeah, and then not to mention the How It Should Have Ended YouTube channel did a parody on that, where they literally took the eagles and flew over Mordor, and Frodo drops the ring over Mount Doom, while Aragorn, Boromir, Gimli, and Legolas all distracting Sauron as
Yes.
Gandalf and the hobbits are flying over with the eagles. And then they joke about, man, could you imagine if we walked all that way? Yeah, some of us could have died. Referring to Boromir.
Yes.
So
And that
that's
is what my
the
fan
theory.
theory is.
It's a very intriguing theory as well because, come on, flying on eagles. If that would have worked,
It's majestic.
It's been so majestic.
Would have been epic.
And we would not have the fantasy novelties as we do today if that would have worked. So maybe Tolkien, in his wisdom, was wise in making Gandalf the Grey die and come back as Gandalf the White.
Yeah.
And the people not realizing he wanted them to use the eagles.
Yeah. Alright, my theory. Now this one has been circulating for a few years, and the last Guardians of the Galaxy movie pretty much confirmed it, and Kevin Feige, the guy over the Marvel Cinematic Universe, kind of like, you know what, fans, we're going to give this one to you. In his own way. Ever since Marvel films have been coming out, Stan Lee has been in them in one form or the other. Especially if he's been one of the creators of those characters. Which is why when you go and watch the Wolverine movies, you don't see Stan Lee in there, because Stan Lee wasn't involved with the making of Wolverine, but he was involved with the making of the X-Men, along with the Fantastic Four, along with Spider-Man, and pretty much most of Marvel. And so he's always had some little cameo, whether it's him at a hamburger stand in X-Men when the politician comes out, or him being a FedEx delivery guy in the Civil War, or being the security guard in the Smithsonian and the Winter Soldier. He has some small role. Even in the Incredible Hulk, he was the guy that drank the drink from Brazil and it packed a little punch. Or he was the guy on Xandarian being a little pervert as military general. I mean, he's had some cameo in pretty much all the Marvel films except for the Wolverine trilogy. Well, and also, I don't know if he was in Logan or not. So, this leads the fans to spectate that Stan Lee, is part of this alien race known as the Watchers. Now, the Watchers in the Marvel Universe, they do exactly what they say they do. They watch and oversee what's happening. So people were speculating that Stan Lee could possibly be one of these Watchers, and he is known as the Watcher as Yuatou, if I'm pronouncing that right. Where he's really an awesome Watcher. But instead of Kevin Feige giving him that type of Watcher, in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, spoilers here for those who haven't seen it, there's a part where Londo and Rocket are going through 700 jump gates, or fast traveling gates. They're going through 700 of them. Why? Well, because that was the fastest way for him to go help Peter or Star-Lord out. So during that travel sequence, we see Stan Lee in an astronaut suit talking to the Watchers. And he's referring to and talking about his latest adventure, where he delivers the FedEx package to Tony Stark. And he's telling about that. Then in the end credits scenes, they give him the title of the Watcher's informant. So he's not exactly a Watcher, but he is an informant to the Watchers, which explains why he is all these different characters in the Marvel films. And also, a little side note, fun fact, for those of you who have seen Big Hero 6, if you watch the end credits scene, they have Stan Lee in there as the dad to, oh come on, what's his name? Fred. That's right, Fred. He is the dad to Fred. And if you pay attention in the film, you see the picture of Fred's parents, You see Stan Lee as the portrait, and so they have Stan Lee as Fred's dad in Big Hero 6, and I just thought that was like the coolest thing ever.
That is pretty cool.
Because I mean that's coming from a Disney film, Big Hero 6, which also just so happens to be a Marvel comic at the same time. And I really enjoyed that movie. That movie talked a lot about different things. But that's digressing. And then I have one other one that I found interesting. This one tied into a TV show, Star Wars Rebels, and also into Return of the Jedi. What's interesting about this, there's a scene in Return of the Jedi where Han Solo is going in and try to infiltrate the base on Endor to destroy the shield generator. So they do that. And Han, being Han, trolls the scout trooper, taps on his shoulder, darts in the direction where he has his troops at. Now all the troops except one are all young looking guys, but one of them has a beard, a white beard. And jump to season 2 of Rebels, of Star Wars Rebels, and you come across Rex. Rex is wearing and has a white beard that matches the white bearded guy in Return of the Jedi. So fans are speculating, saying that's Rex, that's Captain Rex. I love Captain Rex. I mean, come on, one of the few clone troopers that we saw in Clone Wars with dual pistols. And not only that, but he was just an awesome leader all the way around, and one of the few clones that actually stood up to a Jedi general, the Jedi Cruel, and almost would have had himself court-martialed if he wasn't right about what he was doing. So Rex is just awesome. Like, he's a fan favorite. With the new Star Wars Battlefront 2 game, fans have been demanding that Captain Rex makes an appearance, be a playable character in the game somehow. They've been wanting that since the release of the game, and to my knowledge, nothing yet has come of it. So fast forward to the season finale of Star Wars Rebels, once again going to spoiler territory. You have Sabine, and it's the closing sequence, the closing scene, and she's telling about the fate of the different rebels, what happened to Zeb and Callus, and what happened to Ezra, what's going on there. And she says this line, and Hera fought in the Battle of Endor, and Captain Rex fought in the Battle of Endor, confirming the fan theory that that old man was indeed Captain Rex. And when that happened, I'm like, yes, thank you for delivering that. That was much needed. Despite of the reception of Rebels, that just made everyone's day, in my opinion. And that will do it for me and my fan theory. Now we'll go to Valentine to see what she found.
Well, my fan theory was on Stanley Kubrick, who directed The Shining, and his somewhat confession in The Shining about the moon landing. We have the little Danny, who he wears an Apollo 11 sweatshirt. You can see it in the scenes where he's riding his big truck around the hallways of the hotel. And a lot of people say that in the book, it didn't mention what kind of sweatshirt he was wearing, just that he was wearing a sweater. And in the movie, Stanley Kubrick opted to have little Danny wear the Apollo 11 sweater. There's also the fact that the Stanley Kubrick changed the mysterious room from 217 to 237. um, there is this part in the movie where they show the room number, and the room number is 217 in the novel, but in the movie they do the hotel room as 237. And a lot of people say that's very close to the hundred of thousands miles away that the Earth is from the moon, that it's 855 miles on average. So there's no like real reason to change the room number except that Stanley Kubrick was maybe hinting at that he directed the moon landing. Um, as far as what I believe on that, I don't know if we actually filmed the moon landing or if like we actually went up there. I want to believe that we went up there. Um, but a lot of people say that the only person who could direct it was Stanley Kubrick. But his daughter did come out earlier this year with a letter like very like aggressively defending that that was just a ridiculous fan theory and that her dad had nothing to do with the direction of the moon landing. But also knowing, you know, like different conspiracy theories and stuff about America, that it very well could have just been a cover up. So, who's to say? I think the more defensive you are about something, the more truth there is behind it. I think that if it was something that wasn't exactly happening, that she would just kind of brush it off or she would laugh it off. I know that that's something that I would do, but like she issued a letter to a news site that she just like thought it was absolutely ridiculous, and she was just really defensive about it. So think what you will about that, and that's about my fan theory.
No, that is a very intriguing theory. I know people will say that the moon landing is a conspiracy theory. It was Interstellar uses the movie Interstellar uses this as well. In the movie Interstellar, quotes pretty much states that, oh no, the moon landing really didn't happen. It was just a propaganda that the U.S. Did to bankrupt the Soviet Union.
Yeah. It was a race against the Soviet Union, so I mean, we could have just been bluffing.
Well, then
But
there's other questions
I
that you
think
can
if
then
we were
arise.
bluffing, huh?
Well, yeah. I mean, you can say that we're bluffing, but then how did we develop the tech and how did we learn from all this stuff? I mean, we have documentation of. I'm trying to remember what Apollo mission it was, but in the Apollo mission, they never took off because 3 of the members died in the shuttle because of negligence on NASA. And not to mention what all happened with some of the other missions, where one blew up on exiting and one blew up on re-entry. And you can have a whole topic about that stuff. But if we managed to build the shuttles in order to launch those missions up into orbit, we had to do something to get there and had to have manned missions into space. So I'm on the side that the moon landing did happen.
Wasn't the first mission not a person, but like a chimpanzee or something?
They did testing because the science will use chimpanzees because they resemble that close to humans and have similar characteristics. And there's a lot of different animals that they use for testing depending on what they want to test for. They have used rats, they have used mouse, they have even used pigs because some animals, some of their organs are very similar to that of humans.
Right.
I remember Mythbusters doing an episode about the moon landing, and they did a lot of research and a lot of digging into it, and at the tail end it says that yes, the moon landing happened. Like they try to mimic the way they walked and move on the moon without gravity while using cables and everything as if they walked the moon. Like it doesn't work. It just doesn't. It can't really turn out. It doesn't equal up.
Right.
And then there's the TV series Adam Ruins Everything, and he goes into detail as well, talking about the moon landing and how that couldn't be recorded, and there's all these other things that you would have to power such a thing back in the 1960s. If I remember correctly, it was the 1960s is when the moon landing happened, because I know it happened under John F. Kennedy.
Yeah. I always thought it was kind of interesting that that they like every movie that I've ever seen with like the moon landing in it, they're like watching the TV and like the camera was supposed to be like, from what they've depicted, a live feed from the moon. One small step for man and one giant leap for mankind. But like, how would that happen back then? You know, like that is so true. How would that happen? It's like not the way it is today. And even today, we get like really, really grainy videos from like our stuff up there, like from Mars and stuff like that. So I just wonder, like back then, like how did they do that? You know? If it really did happen, how did they do that?
Well, NASA did how to use and how to push the technology for things to work, because if it wasn't for the space program, we wouldn't have things such as a microwave.
Right.
Or even a ballpoint pen. The
I
pens
don't
that we
think
take
that.
for granted, there was things that was pushed, and so they found a way, and that's why space missions are launched at certain time of the years, because the orbits are in check, and also I'm pretty sure it also has to do with communication. And I'm not sure about how much satellites they had up in there to help transmit the radio waves back and forth. So there's other aspects that you have to take a look into. And make sure you do your thorough digging.
Right.
And once again, the fan theory almost comes across borderline conspiracy as well. Which is very intriguing. We've all had very interesting fan theories. I was going to make a comment earlier about the Toy Story 3 one. I think the main reason why people say that Sid's the garbage person is, as what Salt was saying, the music, and I believe you can also catch a glimpse of the Skull t-shirt.
I believe that is correct.
Because back in Toy Story, that's what Sid wore. Sid wore a Skull t-shirt. So that there's probably the connection why people are saying Sid's the garbage man. Now his reasons for the garbage man may vary. I think that's why people are connecting Sid and Sid in both those Toy Stories. In Lord of the Rings one, Gandalf wanted to use the eagles and make his way to where the eagles are nesting at, and try to have them fly them either to Mordor or close to Mordor, so they can travel really undetected and such, so they can make it to Mordor to fulfill the mission. And then mine's just a big popular Marvel fanboy theory.
Right.
Everyone has those moments.
Everyone has those moments. And then of course we got The Shining, which is a very interesting fan theory with the letter coming out. And also borderlines and falls right on, I want to say borderlines, but falls right in line with conspiracy theories. So that's all we have. Thank you for taking the time to watching this podcast. If you want us to cover other fan theories, or you have fan theories that we want us to actually take apart and have full-on conversations one-on-one with, let us know in the comment sections. Feel free to share this video, hit that subscribe, and if you do and you want to stay up to date with all our latest videos and all our latest projects when they come out, hit that bell button so you always know when we get it posted up. And so this is Hero Darkness.
Total Logic.
Fish numbers.
Valentine.
And as always, stay salty.